Hello, species value nature system. Foreign and domestic agencies, interbranch actors recorded, invested, needing to cover up lie progressions, as with fact treatment nature tricks, needing to originally and still pretend that we can't sue government as a means and right to individually and to group stay um, roles, and as nature is facilitated as victim predators, but as predators with database crimes, identity thefts, physical delusions juxtaposed with criminally foreign influence natures and roles with sciences, and with numbers of names originally and still maintained all victim predator defenses of fact treatments that you can't defend without lies and delusions and such simultaneously within as the nature of the roles of the sciences, campuses, since some ancient times. This just reminds. So we have a database organized crime method, trick fact treatment nature that use black and white, not racism. When you say racism, all that time too, that leaves out the other natures of crime worse. That were it. It was a juxtaposition. Slavery laws against white and black. I mean, different things. They have the North and the South conceived as a means to measure and to maintain only let realize opinion natures in relationship to the other sciences, keeping how the Civil War was part of the Revolutionary War, not realized. Both sides were roles still criminally foreign influence through what was a whole bunch of nations for shared policing as natures of identities and roles that can only defend their positions, incapable of seeing what was so sickly distinctly hurting each and every area and state of each nation to keep how non-distinctly it flew in through our nations unrealized. Because this came to even kings and queens as odds. Because this came before modern nations. This came off campuses simultaneously while on it. This realized that no one knew what it was doing when it was making everyone trading and calling it these people evil, these are good, the white people, whatever. No one know how to explain it, so they blame it on other things because you have to explain it through the people that are involved, which is everybody. And then with sequence shift styles, for example, rely upon delusions, lies, ill fake passions to exploit and to pretend not to realize exploiting, recorded each individual, grouped together progressively and sequentially, maintained incapable as adults of describing the nature of positive and of negative, honestly, because of how interbranch actors were recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, juxtaposed with overt criminal enterprises and with unrealized once private originally and still. Religion failed. Never be the legion, not as the value of the tribes, of as tribes. I realize the ancients revealed that individual finite rights, grouped rights, and species are our nature of rights, our nature of identity's relationship to what is positive or negative into relationship to an identity of nature that is nature itself. All natures are in demonstration of a shared identity to all things, distinctly and non-distinctly. Now see, what was the organized crime method against the Native Americans first and simultaneously, and it was the same thing first and simultaneously against other nations. It was consciously building everyone realized needing to blame, needing to defend the fact cheating nature convictions and reactions, needed to blame others, other things, and selves for the causes of juxtaposed hurt, torture, trickery, criminal insidiousness nature, trickery. Not trickery, evidence rackets, identity thefts, black and white is the course of humanity. There's one existence. There's one nature to it, identity to it, that is simultaneously distinctly and non-distinctly onto and has the value of all parts of space of its own identity of value. The ancients revealed demonstrably that most logic for science reveals the most plausible. Before there was matter, before there was any gases and things like that, there was an identity of value progression. Now, that's one of the things. See, now, when nature has exceptions to the truth and has truth, what is mostly true, it's showing us an identity that is both. And it's showing us an identity of relationship to itself, the identity of all things, of as all things, vaccines, lost course returns, ancientgamingsystem.com. Yeah, my computer's broken. I have another more, but it's not. But serious things, vaccines. Now the ancients revealed that when we're valuing that, not only does that cause evolution when we're valuing the species, grouped / sexes rights, and individual rights at the same time. But when we are doing it at the same time, it's in sequence, the priority of that. Because this is how it is a volume, a nature of volume. The identity of all things, vaccines, as a sequence nature. That's another thing it is all times. And that's a nature and quality of fact-checking nature not being let offensively by people with recorded each modern nation with psychology, with conspiracy theories, defenses of that formally, pretending that the rights and needs to vet, to have legitimate doctors, but instead, the whole thing, maintain all opinion natures, dishonest, because we have that uncharged. We have them in collusion with courts through time, various natures of courts and of the same natures of courts intercity, with crime methods needed originally and still because of how they share policing there and here. Criminally foreign influences before modern nation, they left nave influences off campuses, on off campuses, interscience since some ancient times. This just reminds our American history stolen our face. It's not who knows the most, it's who knows what's right always, and noting except not denying any exceptions, which is another thing racism does. When you, in other words, it's defense of a quality of fact-checking nature forced to on kids who want to know how to explain out of it. Then you can't do it because you're fake positive. And right where it's critical to have it. This is right where they can. This is a torture method to understand what slavery is. It's not to, to know. This is a simultaneously pseudo care method. Simultaneously, it was a database relationship, worse than terror method. It was crafting people to pseudo positive roles with what was causing more than 99.9% of the crimes. Crimes as conceived by the law here, there. We have them in collusion with private with that too. Criminally foreign influence. Juxtaposed victim predator roles, making and keeping overt criminal enterprises. Facilitated here, there. In collusion. Through off campuses maintained and on off campuses maintained. Collusion of areas, intercity, interstate, local news, national news with database crimes. Multi-front as crime acts rolls with cases. With criminal seriousness nature, pretending the right to not be able to sue government means they can do what they can what the law says they can't. They pretend they don't know how to do charges and stuff like that. They also recorded consciously knowing that the statutes and that evidence reception was led by and as criminally foreign influence data, formal, all roles with recorded conscious sabotage of correlation nature, which is recorded at Trinity nature. This is the conversation we're having with white and black, with our eyes. Everyone has white and black eyes. That's non-distinctly. Then we have distinct too. Everything is the same course. I'll drop the force because the only thing that surges through all things is the identity of source, the identity of all things at once. We don't have to agree about the name of it, but for a science course, the English is made to reveal Allah's name spelled in English left to right is distinctly and non-distinctly using Allah's name to teach about the identity of science and as one bigger than space, temporary space, nature, from before it was generated by its perfect value progression, then this inside it, as value nature inside of values nature. Its complete nature, only distinctly onto us, but simultaneously distinctly and non-distinctly, because all parts of itself are inherent to all finite parts of itself. All natures of value are of one. It is a value nature relationship to itself. In value, in fact, treatment, nature are two things that it is simultaneously always, and as not denying any exceptions. And so there's a value progression, a perfect value progression. That is an obligation by our fact treatment nature. And that is the Constitution unabridged, but that was never heard, its voice. Low criminal insidious nature roles, as victim predators never let demonstrated how criminal insidious nature is participation with markets forced, sick, originally still, forced shared policing, and defenses of that as conviction nature, opinion natures, pseudo-positive theater natures, roles. You can't legalize what has to be hidden. That's exploited to make sure it can't be legalized. So what they have it legalized on paper, they're also hiding individual and grouped states and areas, interbranch, intermilitary, in areas victim predators all in collusion. All dishonest originally and still. Religion filled, but never be know that Legion, the campus's only value is a correlation nature. And the only way that's even with prayer becomes science here. Because this is not a stagnant thing. We are a quality of diffusion. We are an unceasing value of volume to the identity of all things at once. That is positive or negative, lasting forever nature, relationship to its perfect value progression. To and as it, Allah, the identity the Trinity shares at once as value nature, inside values nature. Another course. The campus Marseilles name is stole. Little train called Lost and Found to practice. Make long play you. In other words, you need the name returned. Is a campus Marseilles is a value nature relationship to nature that reveals evolution. And we have worse than evolution not revealed and defended. And then they can't defend that. And their whole natures of argument, all recorded pseudosciences. Off campuses maintain original still victim predators. So, in the movies and the cartoons, the Native Americans and the colonists and the kings and queens, everyone didn't understand. Even the ages, don't they understand only through needs to hide their own personal group in collusion with other nations. All needed to blame the causes of their stuck roles, natures agreed to with on-off campuses relationship policing. In other words, then the voice of the law abridged, the voice of the Constitution abridged, justifying, blaming the causes of that on other things, box things, on others, and on cells. You have to memorize articles and things like that. It's free speech that they steal. Our branch is originally still. We have to be able to report this. We won't let that reported as maintaining as fact cheating nature roles reliant upon wars. Reliant upon we don't talk with our enemies. Reliant upon them pretending, which they are recorded doing, pretending they can't fathom how legitimate and or fake hate against other sides is pretending they can't fathom exploitation of roles with them used to hide their own personal and group identity theft crime roles. Crime roles with the sex offenders cliques interbranch with their acts recorded. And they're recording how they're pretending fake news and things are just fake news when they have that stuff they're really involved with. Because they're needing that to hide lie progressions against each age of fact cheating nature. For how they were recorded even with sequentially timed, orchestrated criminal uses of the overt criminal enterprises from different nations, juxtaposed also with DACA, with policing and roles with family members of it, internation and with positions with campuses and stuff like that, maintain criminally for maintain used by other natures of crimes and crime methods. See, we have this with many from my town tied to my campuses that I never had conversations with. And the others all criminally exploited. Joshua, a striker, I never had a conversation with him, never had a class with him, I was younger than him in my life with Trinity College. Dean recorded switching, forging ink. These are also people recorded confessed with intercampus CCSU disgusting leaders undercover with roles with identity thefts recorded. See, their courts are also with roles with their own, because they were facilitated to this by their roles within as overt criminal enterprise, realized and not, known and unknown, and just uncharged, but known, but they're reliant upon conspiracy theories they have with to use to pretend they have conversations with people that never were. Used to pretend that you could, that it's real fast you could tell things. In other words, they're recorded that because they're also forging, making up things, making exceptions after the fact. In other words, progressing crime acts roles with people that I never had anything to do with when I was in grammar school. The only exceptions recorded, criminally exploited. Very subtle. Then that is attached to complete strangers that they use to prevent people from reporting things. The same people that are trying to vet who tells the truth. Same people are trying to receive evidences in courts. Criminally foreign influence through time. Originally still. There's no joke. Correlation nature. Never examined the volume of humanity. And identities are gaining value. Each part of it is essential. They're telling kids not to think because they have recorded sickly, criminally foreign influence and delusions juxtaposed. And personal, same thing. Because this is everyone's victim predator roles. Forgiveness was for this. This is a law conversation. Criminally re-engineered campus martius conversation that happened before the modern religions. Thank God for the semi-counter. Thank God for counters to that too. Because until the campuses are valuing species, body of value, and finite rights, not only again, but but better and better from what was since semi-ancient times. Nature will continue to demonstrate with negative value nature progressions. And that contains life progression.